Our main man, Shaun Deveney, joins the show. Shaun, how you doing, brother?
Pretty well. How are you today?
Oops, I can't hear you. You got me?
I do, yes.
There we go. Sorry, that was my thing. How you doing, brother? Appreciate you joining us, man. My co-host is off today. He works at Fox also, and they called him in today for whatever reason. He may have to film Paul Pierce walking 20 miles again or something. So that's what he does. So look, you're at Athlon now, covering sports. You've been everywhere. What's your biggest takeaway from last night's game, man? One of the biggest is that my thumbnail says choke 2.0. It's pretty much kind of what we saw last night. That game was unbelievable. I was on my boat on the water, and I didn't really watch it. I had it on my TV on the boat, but I was like, all right, this game's over. It's 11:97. I mean, there's like under 2 minutes. I'm like, there's no way. And then I'm in the car, and it's overtime. And I'm like, what in the hell happened? First of all, I got to ask you right out the gate before you even comment. Is this the same NBA? I know it's not the same, but we've had a bunch of NBA players on lately. Is this the same NBA you covered the last 25 years as far as how these playoffs are? Because I see every other night blowout, even Game 7 blowouts that I've never seen before. And in the same things, Chucky Atkins and Chris Childs and all these guys that have come on the show said the same thing. We didn't see Game 7 blowouts, very, very few and far between. But we definitely didn't see this bad of a product. And is that why the NBA's viewership is down?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that. I think what's happened with the three-point shot, when I came in and I started covering the league in the early 2000s, you might take 15 to 20 three-point shots a game. If you took 20, you were on the high end. Now you've got teams like the Celtics jacking up 53 pointers a game. And it spreads out the floor, and it takes away the middle of the floor, takes away a lot of the elbows, a lot of the physicality that you used to need to play in the NBA. That's really not there as much anymore. So I definitely think that's something that. When you look at the NBA wanted more scoring, there's no question that some of those games in the early 2000s were pretty ugly, but I think they've gone too far. In direction of the three-pointer. We'll see if there's rule changes or something that can kind of bring that back a little bit.
No doubt. I remember watching in the 80s and the Celtics, Lakers, and those great games, the 76ers and just the old school Knicks. And I went back and looked at some scores. We used to have 153, 150 games, 145, 140, and the ball actually moved. It went inside first. It came back out. Bird and McHale worked the paint and give and goes, like all the things. Then motion offense came, and then obviously the triangle with Tex Winters and Phil Jackson. They scored. Like, I don't understand why. And I get there's a Detroit Pistons team that came around in 2003, and they stymied that Laker team when Karl Malone and GP got hurt, and that series, and they dominated the Lakers in that series and won. They had a great defense. I don't know if we'll ever see that style again, but those things happen if you're that much better on defense as a team. That team had no real superstar. They just had a bunch of collective all-in guys, and that Detroit Pistons teams kind of resembled the bad boys, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I still think we had offense. Now we're trying to reinvent the wheel because the guy Steph Curry came along and reinvented the wheel, basically, and then we got 7-footers now. Everyone thinks they can shoot threes, and that's what's made the game, in my opinion, bad. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, that's really, it probably started in the late 90s with Pat Riley, and that's sort of where all that started, and that got taken probably too far. In the early 2000s with, you mentioned the Pistons, but, even the Spurs, there was a Spurs-Nets. I remember being at the Spurs-Nets finals. I think it was 2003. And game 4 of that series was like 78-73. And I remember going back and talking to Greg Popovich after the game. He said, I think we just set basketball back about 15 years. And he was right. It had gotten too far. So you see this from the league. And you see this in all sports, really, where there's a reaction to something that goes too far, and they got to find a way to kind of bring it back.
That was the Kittle's kid-led team, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon Martin. No doubt. Let me ask you about last night's game. So, what happened last night with this debacle? I think that probably lost the series for the Knicks, in my opinion, just because I don't know how you can be that high and then end up that low. That's almost like a Hail Mary beating you at the end of a game in football. I don't know how to equate it, but that's a choke job. I haven't seen. The stats are alarming on on conference finals on this right here. It's crazy. Won in 1,400 games. That's the first time ever. Where are you at with last night's game? Was it great basketball in your opinion, or are we numb to such bad basketball that now a good game turns into a great game for everyone else?
Yeah, I thought one thing that happens, and one thing that we've seen happen a lot in these playoffs, is that the team that's winning takes its foot off the gas. You saw that with the Celtics in the last round. You saw it with the Cavaliers in the last round. And when you do that in the era of three-pointers, it's a lot easier to come back from 15 points if you make 5 threes. You've done it, and that's pretty much what happened last night. Aaron Nesmith, had, I believe it was 20 points in that fourth quarter. All of them he scored in the last 6 minutes. He didn't score in the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter.
5 threes in a row or something. 5 threes or something.
Yeah, and so that's very good basketball by the Pacers. They play fast. They force you to play fast. And their calculation is that if we force you to play at our pace for 48 minutes, somewhere along there we're going to catch fire. We're going to win that game because we can play faster. We're deeper than you. And you saw that bet pay off for the Pacers on that one because they waited to the last 2 or 3 minutes, but no question that they wore the Knicks out. They forced the Knicks to play their way, and when they do that, then the Pacers are going to win those games.
Man, do the Knicks have a snowball's chance in hell now? This team beat Cleveland at home. Obviously, was the kind of the answer there. They got 2 there. If Indiana wins 2, obviously, I think it's over. But I like Jalen Brunson. He's my favorite player in the league. He reminds me of old school grit and guts, tough skin. I don't believe he's bothered as much as a lot of people would be in this generation. As I don't think he's as bothered as everybody else. I think he's going to have that mentality to come back and get one. If the Knicks win, I think it's fair game. Obviously, Indiana did their job, winning 1 on the road. That's what everyone wants to say. But if Indiana wins, obviously, it's over, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one game, so there's still plenty of time for the Knicks to come back. You can say all that, but I do agree with you. There's 2 things that I'd point out. One is that it's hard to chase a loss like the Knicks are doing. We saw again, bring up the last series. The Celtics tried to do that, and it did not work. When they lost those first 2 games to the Knicks, they were trying to pull back. It's hard to win a series that way when you're coming from behind like that. And we saw it with the Cavaliers as well. So the Knicks have put themselves in a tough situation. The other thing is you mentioned the mental toughness of Jalen Brunson. And I agree with you. I'm not worried about him. It's everybody else on that roster that I'm worried about. Karl Anthony Towns has not been through this, and he's never been known as a mentally tough individual. That's one reason he's not with the Timberwolves anymore. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, they've not been through this kind of thing before. So, I'm more worried about the rest of that Knicks roster, how they react to this and how they react to the toughness that we've seen from the Pacers. The Pacers are on house money here. I mean, they're not supposed to be here. So that's the most dangerous kind of opponent for a team like the Knicks.
Let me go through this time frame here. So 242, it's 119-105 here.
Right.
Now, back in the day, with that much time, we did the hack-a-shack, and we did. The common theme is you're up 3, foul, so the team can't hit a 3. Well, they were up 3 multiple times, and I want to go through this chronological order of this thing here, how this went down. So they hit the 3, obviously. It's 119-108, 2:11 left. Now, mind you, Indiana's scoring, but so are the Knicks. So right. When I'm watching this on the boat, I'm like, all right, it's still, though, the Knicks are still scoring. So we're at a minute, and we're still down 7. And the Knicks still score.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, back to 9. Now, yeah,
At this point, you think the game's over.
Right here, Shaun, explain what the difference is between the old school, you covering this game for 25 years, and now when you're up 9 and there's under a minute left. Thibodeau, to me, has done this now multiple times in this playoffs. Once against Detroit, one last series against the Celtics. I'm confused as to why we're not fouling and putting guys at the line and slowing the game down for that team that's hot as hell at the perimeter. Why are we stopping the 3-point game here by fouling them?
Yeah, and especially Neesmith, with the way that he was shooting, and he actually said after the game, he was asked, were you surprised to get those looks? He said, yeah, I couldn't believe that they were giving me that much room, that they were allowing me to get that shot off. To me, I'm tackling the guy. I'm tackling him before he gets into a shooting motion, and tackling him, when it's a 2-point, when it's 2 points. That's when you can get that opportunity to keep him off the 3-point line. You're up by 9 with less than a minute to go. Just don't let them shoot threes, and it shouldn't be as difficult as teams seem to make it.
And we're trading 3s for 2s, and I'm fine at this stage. I'll take a 2 with Towns right there scoring. There's 41 seconds. You're still up 8.
Yeah.
I'm confused as to why Thibodeau allowed this, and everyone's out there talking about OKC on the other side. We'll get to it here in a second with you. They're talking about the great defense. I'm like, nah, it makes it real easy on defenders when you don't put the ball inside it all, and you're all perimeter savvy, and you're just swinging it around the 3-point line. I can play defense. You and I can go out there and play defense with Caruso, that they're all calling the new fucking Kobe Bryant, apparently. I don't know, but I just wanted to go through this right here with you. That's all. This 35 seconds, they hit another 3.
You cannot let that guy get that shot. Right. Exactly.
All right, so now 25 seconds, you're still up 5. Allow that 3. Now, this is where you got to start fouling here, right? And put him at the line?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't get this right here. And now this one right here.
Yeah.
That shot right there, Shaun, as crazy as it sounds, I'm actually glad he made that shot because, damn, it's so fitting that we lost Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, and that 3 goes down. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of seemed like it was a little bit face. I was like, wow, face right here. Yeah. All right, well, anyway, the game goes to overtime.
And one thing to mention, too, the Knicks missed 2 free throws down the stretch here, and those were big. Yeah. They make one of those free throws, and it's a different ending.
Out west, Minnesota, OKC, the line was 7.5. I took Minnesota game 1 in OKC to cover. They got blown out. The game was close, actually, without even Anthony Edwards doing anything more than, I think he shot 13 times.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at tonight as game 2 hits in OKC? It seems like if they just cover and win their home games, they're going to win the whole damn thing because they're going to have home court advantage throughout. It's easy to say that, but obviously that never really happens. But who's going to steal one at home from them? Is it going to be Minnesota or is it going to be in the finals? Is OKC a foregone conclusion?
I think Minnesota has a chance tonight. I really do. They've got to be able to knock down some of it. They took too many 3-pointers. I think they
53,
took 53, and that's not them. That's the Celtics. Sure, that's not their. They're not a bad 3-point shooting team. They shouldn't be taking 53 though. They should be in the 35 range. And what was happening is basically Oklahoma City, because they've got so many big guys. They just crushed in on the paint and basically said, "You're not coming in here, so you shoot out there." And that's what the Timberwolves, they allowed them to dictate that. They can't do that. They've got to hit a couple shots to spread things out, no question. But then Anthony Edwards has got to just keep going in there. Even if it's not a great shot, you've got to keep going in there until you break them a little bit. And they didn't. They didn't show any willpower. They had enough to keep up in that first half, but second half, things started to go a little bit against them, and they completely folded. And they can't do that. They've got to keep hammering into that paint. I don't care how many defenders the Thunder put in there. I think it was 52-20 was the points in the paint in game 1. You're never going to win like that. You're just not. That's some old school. That's an old school number is points in the paint. And you could see how Oklahoma City really dominated there.
Shaun, the feel-good story would have been the Knicks T-Wolves make this trade in the offseason. You get Randall, you trade Towns, you get these DiVincenzo, you get all these guys, and both teams seem to be on their way to the finals. And everyone's like, both trades, probably the first real trade that worked out for both teams. And we could see a Knick T-Wolves final. We still can, I mean, in theory. But does this series though show you the lack of Towns though with Gobert? Is this something that could have helped right here?
Yeah, I mean, certainly they needed more size. I think that's really, Julius Randle has been fantastic all throughout the playoffs, but he's been playing against smaller guys. I mean, it's a little easier to do that against smaller guys when you're going up against Golden State. It doesn't really have a power forward. You know, if Jimmy Butler's playing power forward, then that's not difficult for him to handle. But now you've got some real size that you're dealing with, and that's always been the issue with Randall, is that he's a very talented player, just not big enough. And you know, so you go up against a team like Oklahoma City that's got that size. All of a sudden, he's a lot less effective. So they could really use some more size. You know, whether it's a guy like Cat or whoever. But Randall's been really good for them. It's just this is not a good matchup for them. This is where they really need Anthony Edwards to take over, and obviously that didn't happen in Game 1.
Yeah, no doubt. I got to ask you, man, you've written some great stories on a lot of famous folks, from Kobe to LeBron to Tiger Woods and Jordan. Who's been the most, I guess, your most cherished article on who the biggest name, I guess, who was the funnest guy to either cover or write a story on?
Probably Pedro Martinez was probably my favorite.
Really?
I mean, just an absolute character. You know, everything that you see, you know, in front of the camera, he's the exact same way off the camera. And that's all you want, right? I mean, you want whatever your persona is, you want that to be who you actually are, and you're not out there putting on a show. He's probably the guy who, you know, was just an absolute blast to talk to. You know, every time you're with him. And I got to way back. I got to spend you know, about a whole week with them, and it was fantastic. He's probably my favorite guy that I've ever covered.
No doubt. Let me ask you. I got to ask you because everyone wants to come on and ask. Everybody wants me to ask the whole GOAT talk. Mm-hmm. Where do you put LeBron, and then where's Kobe on your list? Kobe's my GOAT. I got Jordan and him 1A, 1B, however you want to swing it. I think they're in their own class for me. I also talked to a lot of NBA guys I know that say the same thing. And a lot of NBA players that played against both of them have Kobe ahead of them as well. The media, though, has LeBron way higher than Kobe for some unknown reason, probably because he's still playing. I don't know. Where are you at? Somebody that covered this whole thing for 25 years in this discussion.
I'd have Jordan first. I mean, I just think that you know, the level of success, what he did, the way he brought teammates up. You know, he raised teammates up to a different level, you know, and whether it was off the floor with those workouts that he's famous for and all that, or on the floor with just the attention that Jordan, his ability to pass and pick defenses apart. I'd have Jordan first. I'd have Kobe second. You know, Kobe gets dinged, and one of the reasons why I think today's media doesn't put him on the same level as LeBron James is efficiency, his you know, he didn't shoot the three and things like that. That wasn't the game then. You know, you can't judge him by that because that wasn't the game then. You know, I mean, Allen Iverson won an MVP. He shot 40%, you know, and you couldn't shoot 40% in today's NBA. You know, people would freak out. You know, they don't allow you to do that. But that was the game then. And you know, Kobe was playing the game then with his peers just way above where everybody else was. I think you gotta keep it into context. So you can look at the numbers and you can say, look, LeBron is better because of this number, that number, that number. But you gotta have watched the games and what was going on. And I think if you were there and you were watching the games, you know what Kobe did.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. People don't realize a lot of the younger folks have no clue. They didn't get to watch it. All they got is YouTube to go back and say, I don't know, man. Kobe was like I've had a bunch of big time guys on too that say, hey, man, Kobe was a much better shooter from every which way as far as Jordan was. It's much better 3-point shooter at least, even though you said it wasn't the game. Obviously, we saw. I don't know. Kobe's in rare form for me, rare air for me, but I agree. Those got to be to me, they got to be in their own category. I don't know.
Yeah.
LeBron to me is just, I don't know how. I got to get your take before you get out of here on the Lakers. They make this crazy trade. And then the Mavericks get the so-called lotto. What are the Lakers doing? Obviously, there's no way LeBron walks away without doing a farewell tour. I'm sure that's going to happen, right? Cleveland, Miami, stops in all these places. That's going to roll out the red carpet for him. Where are you at with the Lakers? What do they do? Is it time is he the one that's going to have to say, here, Luka, or is JJ and the organization going to have to say, LeBron, go away?
I think LeBron's going to be back. He's not walking out with the way that last year ended with the first round defeat, the way that happened. So he'll be back. I think he wanted this to be what happened with Anthony Davis. He wants to pass the torch. He does. And Anthony Davis just wasn't the right guy for that. He couldn't stay healthy. And when he was healthy, he wasn't really a guy who could carry a team. Luka can. They need some help. They need some size. You saw that really. They got hammered by the Timberwolves because they just weren't big enough. So they're going to need to. That's going to have to be something that they address in the offseason. But LeBron will be back, and I think he'll want to kind of make that transition to Luka, and then LeBron probably after this. I'm betting it's going to be after this year. He might play another year after that, but I think he'll definitely be back this year, and I think they'll be a good team. A contender, yes, but probably not a team that winds up in the finals. But still good enough to be a 50-win team and be a serious finals contender.
I don't know how much you dive into the salary and all that on these teams, but the Lakers wise, everyone out here that wants to see, the Lakers have been historically known to get a splash guy like a Luka, like a LeBron, like all the guys, Shaq, and everyone else that's come through this organization when everyone else thought they could get him. Everybody out here, Giannis is coming. First of all, I don't know how they make it happen without depleting the rest of the roster. I don't really think the roster is very good anyway. But if you do pass the torch to Luka, he plays zero defense. We know how bad he led the league in getting blown by one-on-one solo. I don't know how you create a team and get perimeter savvy defensively like a OKC or somebody that's got athletic bigs on the perimeter that can defend 2 and 3 equally like OKC can. I don't know if the Lakers have enough space if you do go get somebody like that. I don't think they can get him, but just saying, if Giannis truly wants out of Milwaukee and wants to move, the Lakers seem like the place because it's LA and it's La La Land. Do the Lakers have any room to make any big splash, whether it's him or someone else? But I think they need help, right?
Yeah, I mean, they would need to make a trade, and they just don't have the assets. I mean, you look at what the Bucks could be offered by a team like San Antonio, by a team like Houston that's got young players and they have a bunch of picks. A team like Brooklyn, young players and picks. There's 3 teams right there who are going to blow any offer the Lakers could make for Giannis out of the water. So there's just no way. There's no way that happens. The Lakers, I think, like I said, they'll make some changes. They're going to try to get a rim protector is what they really lacked. They need some of that. They probably need 2 guys, actually. They need a starter and a backup at center. They probably need another power forward, too, a tough guy power forward. We'll see if Jared Vanderbilt would be ideal, but he's been hurt so much. So they need a lot of things in that front court. They've got to remake that front court, but it's not going to be Giannis. It's not going to be that easy. It's going to have to be, a couple of guys that are sort of making reasonable money, not a superstar like Giannis.
For my folks out west, what are you hearing or rumblings? Phoenix, they had this big 3, possibly even a 4th. They had a loaded roster with Bill addition. Booker kind of took a step back, in my opinion, this year. And then KD, it seems like a lot of individual ball being played. What happens there? Obviously, they're going to probably blow it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, KD is the obvious trade candidate, and I'd be really surprised if he came back. Bradley Beal has the no trade clause, so he can't be traded unless he wants to, and he said, "I don't want to." And it's kind of weird to be in a place where you're not wanted, but that's sort of what his situation is at this point. He's a golfer, so I guess he likes being in Phoenix. Makes sense. So that's not going to change. So the big question becomes: all right, do you trade Booker? Do you really go all in on a rebuild and trade Booker? Because that's where you can get assets that are young. That's where you can get a whole bunch of draft picks back. The same teams I just mentioned, a team like Houston, a team like Brooklyn, you could really rack up some real assets to start rebuilding that thing if you trade Devin Booker. The owner has said that's not going to happen. I haven't heard anything that suggests that's going to happen, but that's the only way that they're really going to start, a true rebuild of that franchise. Otherwise, they're just going to be, continuing to paint around the edges.
My buddies in Houston think KD is a foregone conclusion to land there with the young team. I'm hearing also, though, that the Houston brass doesn't want to get anyone older than 32, 33 years old to go with that youngest team in basketball, I think. Do you see KD going there with that young crew or no?
Yeah, it's possible, and he's not choice number one. He's going to be down on the list. But if you miss out on it, you don't get Giannis, right? You don't get some of your other targets. Then you have to say, okay, look, there's a 2-year commitment to Kevin Durant. We can bring in nobody, or we can bring in Kevin Durant for a limited commitment. It's only 2 years. You won't have to give up that much stuff because he's 37, so you don't have to give up all these young assets. You still have them to make another trade later on. So that's got to be an option for them. It's not preferred. It's not what they want to do. They'd love to get Giannis there, obviously. But if choice A and choice B isn't there, and you got to go to Plan C, that's probably Kevin Durant for them.
Last thing, I appreciate you hopping on here. Transitioning to East, the defending champs, they lost to the Knicks, obviously the Celtics. Tatum goes down, another crazy, Achilles. What do they do right now? They have a huge salary on a few players, and Jalen and Tatum. I think Holiday even has a big salary. What do they do? And Porzingis, to be honest, I believe was the difference maker last year. Being there now, the guy that just really didn't even play. They had Komet, or what's his name off the bench that played more than him?
Yeah.
Another thing. What are the Celtics doing? Are they gonna get back, or are we seeing that deal over and this thing gets blown up because just sheer money?
Yeah, I mean, look, the team has been sold, so the new owner doesn't want to pay these bills. That's for sure, especially for a team that's not coming off of a championship. So there is that to consider. But the hard question becomes, okay, then what do? You can say, well, we'll get rid of Porzingis. That's fine. Who are you giving him to? Because somebody's going to pay. He's up $35 million next year. Somebody's paying that. So who are you going to get? Who's going to give you 30? Take on that $35 million contract? It's not like the NFL where you can take part of it. You're trading that whole thing to somebody, and nobody's really going to want that at that point. Even Drew Holiday, he's due $100 million over the next 3 years. Crazy. At age 35, 36. Who's going to want that? So it's very easy to say, let's blow this up. But you got to find some partners here, and it's not going to be that easy for them to do. I think Holiday's a sure bet. I think the question is, do you trade Derek White or not? Because he's been really, really good. Yeah. He's another guy. He's got $118 million coming over the next 3 years. You'd have to find a taker for that. But he's a guy who they could trade if they're really looking to get rid of salary. That's probably where they're going to have to go.
So it's going to be Jaylen Brown's team for sure next year, huh?
Yeah. I mean, this is it's something that he's wanted. He hasn't said that out loud, but I think if you know him and you know how that dynamics of that team have been for a while, he's wanted to show what he can do as a number one guy. He'll get a chance. Not how he wanted to get a chance. Not saying he was rooting for Tatum to get hurt, of course, but this is the opportunity that he's always wanted, no doubt.
You think Tatum's done as far as seeing the young, great star uprise that we thought maybe the face of the league at some point? Is that?
I think he can still get back. When you have that kind of injury, the question is how much do you rely on athleticism? And he relies on it somewhat, but not. He's very much a post up, a herky jerky. He learned a lot from Kobe. So I think he can come back from that. He's still young enough. And the way medicine has progressed, even in the last 10 years. I think it's something he can come back from and still be a very, very good player. Can he be, at the MVP level that he was last year? That's probably the big question. Probably not, but he can still be a really good player.
Yeah, that's a great take. Yeah, I agree with you. Man, Shaun, I can't thank you enough. Head on over to Athlon. Make sure you follow Shaun on X. Are you on Instagram?
Somewhere on there, sure.
No doubt. Hey, man, I can't thank you enough, brother. Hopefully we have you on again maybe after the finals. So I appreciate you hopping on here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother.